Welcome back to another Sunday walk video. My voice is not completely back to normal, but I'll make it. Today is actually a pretty good day weather-wise. The sun's out, it's about 60 degrees, so it's feeling good. But what's not good is Bitcoin's price action right now. At the time of filming, Bitcoin is right around 81.1, 81.2, and has certainly fallen even more than yesterday when I was doing my crypto cruise, right? So, what is prompting this? What is causing Bitcoin to sell off more? And what can we anticipate this coming week? Well, let's talk about it. So I was digging, and trying to figure out what caused the Bitcoin dip, because it seemed like, we were hovering around 85, 86 for a little bit, and it seemed like things were stable. And then all of a sudden, boom, massive red candlesticks all around that drove us down. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And right now we're like barely clinging on 81,000. So what I found is this. China just released their inflation numbers. They also have a PPI and CPI, and both came out really, really horrible. Now, they're in a different situation than we are now. They're even in a worse situation than we are now, because they are not afraid of inflation. What we are afraid of in the US right now is inflation, price of goods going up, especially with all the tariff stuff, right? If there's going to be tariffs, are basically essentially a sort of tax. If you're taxing certain goods, they're coming into the nation and they're taxed 25%, well, it's going to be 25% more expensive. Okay, it's just really that simple. So if you're measuring price of goods and they're going up, that's showing inflation's going up. So that's what we don't want in the US. China, on the other hand, is facing a different problem. They're facing deflation right now. So they have the opposite problem. Their readings for PPI is in the negative. They are below zero in terms of their inflation rate, which means they are in deflation. Their CPI, month over month, year over year, and PPI all came out to be negative numbers. And why is this? Well, when consumers don't buy and they're just simply saving all the money they have, then that means no one's spending anything, right? So that means price of goods are going to come down because no one is buying anything. Think about sales, right? Any big box stores? I don't know if China really has big box stores. I'm sure there's some. And just whatever stores they have, if they have all these goods that are not being sold, of course they have to start discounting the price, which normally speaking you would think that's a great thing, unless it's prolonged. And now there's real fears about China having the same kind of problem Japan had for decades. The lost decades of Japan, same thing happened. Japan and Japanese people, they did not want to spend. So all they did was save money, save money, save money. And Japan had no economic growth whatsoever. And they were really bad for a couple decades. That is the reason why Japan implemented, their central bank implemented a rule where they basically kept their interest rate at zero. In fact, it was below zero. They wanted people to borrow money. They wanted businesses to borrow money to spur up the economy, because basically nothing was getting done. Businesses were stale or going out of business or closing down, and consumers are not spending. It wasn't until last year when Japan finally decided to break that stance and they raised their interest rate up a couple times. And they only did it because they had to, because their currency, the yen, was just getting absolutely destroyed versus the USD and other currencies, and they were facing other problems, so they couldn't keep it at zero, and that is why they raised the rate a couple times now. So it's no longer at negative, it's a little bit above zero. So that's kind of like the worst case scenario. I'm no economist, but from what I hear, from what I've read, most, if not all, say that deflation is way worse than inflation. So that is what's coming out of China right now. Obviously, this is only temporary right now, or it's a short term, I should say, not temporary, short term. So there's no guarantee that it's going to be a prolonged period of deflation, but that's what China is seeing right now, right? And now with if you think about it, with the tariff war that's ongoing, the retaliation, tariffs between China and US, it's going to hurt them a lot. It's going to hurt them a lot. It's going to hurt us too. It's probably, it's probably going to hurt them more than it will us, meaning the US, but still, there's going to be damage on both sides. We will see inflation. They could continue to see deflation. So it's not a good situation all around. So that's what I think is happening. So there's a lot of panic about China. So I think Asian markets are they're about to open soon. If I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking I'm going to be right, that the Asian markets are going to open up brutally on Monday, which is in a few hours. And that could definitely carry over to the European markets and then US for us. I think starting tomorrow, we're probably not going to see any green. I think we're going to see a lot of red. I just don't see anything right now that's really helping us, right? I know we're not in the same situation. We're not in deflation. We're worried about inflation, but there's nothing on the horizon that's going to help us. The economic data that's coming out doesn't help us. They're slowing down. Everything that's coming out shows the economy is slowing down. And everything that measures inflation is showing inflation going up. And all the tariff stuff that I mentioned, a lot of hard stances, and then there's exceptions made. There's just a lot of question marks, a lot of people questioning whether there's a real plan or not. We just don't know at this point. So that's why there's so much turmoil. So I think that's why short term, that's why, like today, you're seeing Bitcoin sell off more and the alts are selling off even more. And just yesterday, in my Crypto Cruise video, I said, hey, unless we see some catalyst, right, from President Trump or David Sachs or someone in the administration that has some really bullish Bitcoin and crypto news, I fear that we will probably be in this slump for the time being. Because when markets get spooked, these traders, Wall Street traders and traders from overseas, they will be dumping everything. They will be dumping everything. And I think that's the reason why Bitcoin is showing more weakness today, because they are dumping Bitcoin. As simple as that. When there's panic out in the market, people gravitate towards cash. All the assets get sold off. Cash is king when there's fears about uncertainty, a drop, a recession, or whatever, right? That's what happens. So it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks. I don't really have anything to counter that. Short term, as long as we have all these worries, or aka distractions, about tariffs, about economies, especially like China's, which is one of the biggest in the world. And there are correlations. If you look at like graphs and previous cycles and previous climbs, there are a lot of graphs that show Bitcoin going up when liquidity going up, and a lot of liquidity from China too. So we'll see. Short term doesn't look very good. Now China did say they want to come out with a lot of stimulus. They have been putting out stimulus already, making it easier for banks to give out loans, having no requirements, reserve requirements anymore. And they may even give out stimulus money to their citizens. And I mean, there's more things that they could do. So with a capital injection, with a huge capital injection, that could turn things around. But until they do, I don't know if things will. And in the US, our form of capital injection is to get our rate down, the Fed fund rate. If the Fed fund rate continues to go down, that's our form of capital injection, because it allows businesses to borrow money, allows banks to give out more loans. But when the interest rate is high, no one wants to borrow. And right now, Fed Chair Powell is not inclined to cut the Fed fund rate because inflation is going up. That's what you don't want to do. But he may be forced to. He even released a statement recently saying that he's not going to do anything until he gets clarity on the tariff situation. So, when are we going to get clarity? I don't know. I really don't know. So, yeah. I think this week is going to be pretty brutal. I think the U.S. market, Bitcoin, since it's 24/7, usually is a precursor to what's about to come. And if Bitcoin is having a sell-off right now, I'm thinking that come Monday for us in the U.S., we're going to have a very red day. I don't know. Short term, that's what it looks like. I don't think short term anything could help us. I mean, I already talked about how disappointed I was with the summit. I'm hoping that more comes out of it. I don't know. I think it's gonna take time for them to come up with anything that's really favorable, that's gonna get people excited again. But at least it's a start. And as for the Bitcoin Reserve, yes, it's there. It's a great start, but no planned buying, no planned schedule for buying. And that's kind of disappointing too. So I guess we'll have to see. Unless there's some big catalyst that comes out that causes a whole lot of enthusiasm and a whole lot of buying, we may be stuck here for a while. And we may even trend even lower as markets around the world sells off. That's just reality, and it really sucks. I've said this before. It sucks that all these traders, fund managers treat Bitcoin as a risk-on asset. They don't see it as a commodity like a digital version of gold yet. Some do, but a lot don't, which is why they sell off whenever there's like fear. But you know what? It is what it is. That means more for us. Eventually, they will come to understand. But yeah, right now just kind of sucks. Also, from a technical standpoint, I saw this too. Bitcoin is below the 200 EMA. It's right around like 82.5 or something like that. So being below it is also not good short term. It's usually a bearish view, bearish trend. So that's also not good. But yeah, that's all short term. Both of these things are short term. Short, midterm. Long term, I am still a believer, and I know almost everyone watching this is. Short term is going to suck, but you know, who knows? Just like last week, we had sudden announcements and Bitcoin popped up to 90,000+. It could happen this week too. Who knows what kind of announcements? But long term, we know that Bitcoin is the one asset you want to hold and accumulate as much of as you can, because it's scarce, and it's the reason why it was created, because of all the shenanigans and all the distractions and distrust in governments and banks and all that stuff. So long term, Bitcoin is just fine. Okay, and I know almost all of you guys watching knows that. But short term, man, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens with the US. Hopefully there's a resolution to all these tariff stuff. We get some kind of real direction and guidance so that Wall Street can actually get behind it and start buying again. Because when there's a lot of confusion, they're just not going to do it. They're just going to keep selling off. So hopefully that comes sooner than later. But yeah, short term, my opinion, not looking so good. But there's always hope that something could come and turn things around. But long term, my views are always going to be the same. I've been through much worse. I've seen much worse. I've been through many, many cycles. And there are prolonged periods of time where it seems like everything is going wrong and Bitcoin is dead. Or Solana is dead. Or BNB is dead. Or ADA is dead, right? But every single time, we come back and we come back stronger. And I don't think it's going to be different this time around, but we just have to have patience and we need to continue to hodl and basically wait it out. That's really it. Yeah, I don't have anything positive to say short term. Unfortunately, I just feel like you put all the signs together, short term just looks bad. There's no way to slice it unless, again, we get some clarity on the tariff situation, or Trump backs off, or something amazing gets announced on the Bitcoin front or crypto front. You know, that could turn things around short term. But if we get none of those things and we continue the course, we're going to get a lot of, I think, a lot more weakness, a lot more sell-offs, near term, short term, mid-term, but eventually we'll get through it, and then that's when we recover, and we recover in a big, big way. And I'm looking forward to that. All right, guys, that's it. Smash it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully my voice is a little better. 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.